Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers.
And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2025. I am Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com, and with me, as usual, after his second training camp practice of 2025 out at Saint Vincent College in Latrobe is the one and only Alex Kozora. Alex, today is July 25th, in case you need to know what the date is. And we are recording this almost 7:30 Eastern time. So with that, Alex, happy Friday to you. Happy return from training camp and a little bit shorter session today because of the fear of inclement weather, but they got some work done in for us to or put in today for us to talk about. We got some housekeeping to do at the top. We got a new Steeler to talk about at the top of the show. How are you? How was your trip out there?
Doing well, and thank you for the reminder on the day. At this time of year, my days are camp days and non-camp days. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, that's all jumbled together for me. So yeah, it was a shortened practice because of the threat of some weather that never really fully rolled in, but Pittsburgh playing it safe. They'll get back out there tomorrow.
All right, and we'll talk a little bit about what Mike Tomlin had to say and why he was hopeful to get the group back out there after that break in a little bit here. But at the top of the show, we always have a little bit of housekeeping to do. And the first bit of housekeeping is to talk about who sponsors this show and who has sponsored these special editions of the Terrible Podcast for numerous years now. I am, of course, talking about Touring Plans and Lynn Testa, who runs Touring Plans. And man, if you haven't heard about Touring Plans all this time, throughout the special edition of the Terrible Podcast, we're going to tell you about them. Touring Plans, anything related to a trip that you might have upcoming to Disney or Disneyland or a cruise, a Disney cruise, anything that you can think of Disney related. If that's coming up, you're making a trip, you're making plans to do that, you need to go to Touring Plans to get all your information, your bookings, your deals, the line weights, anything imaginable related to a trip to Disney. TouringPlans.com has it. I was surfing through the website yesterday just to reacquaint myself of everything they have. They obviously too have a app that you can get to make life easier on you. But do us a favor right now, and even if you don't have a trip upcoming to Disney or anything Disney related, go to touringplans.com and bookmark the site. That way you have an easy access for when you do go about booking and making plans for your next trip for anything Disney related. And as usual, we are pleased as punch to have Lynn Testa and Touring Plans sponsoring the special edition of the Terrible Podcast once again. Alex, anything to add to that?
No, well said. Appreciate their support. You'll see it at the top of every camp diary with a link to the website. If you want some more information, we encourage everyone to go check it out. And thank you again to Len Testa and touringplans.com.
All right, let's see. The other bit of housekeeping, Alex, we have a new Pittsburgh Steeler on the roster, and it happens to be a former ex Baltimore Raven. We're starting to collect these, I guess, like infinity stones right now. Chuck Clark. Everybody should probably recognize that name. Spent several seasons with the Ravens when he came into the league. I think the last couple of seasons he was with the New York Jets. Was a free agent out on the street. I think he was coming off of, a pec injury, I think, last year. Alex said he had late in the season with the Jets that ended up, put him on IR, I think. Maybe some of the years are running together, but veteran, been around for quite a while, can play free safety, strong safety, can move around in the secondary. One of the things when I always think about Chuck Clark is it's rare that you see safeties around the league wear the green dot. And he did that for several games, several seasons, I think, when he was with Baltimore. And he's known as a really, really strong communicator in the defense. And obviously, when the team drafted Kyle Hamilton, talking about Baltimore, that kind of signaled the beginning of the end for Chuck Clark, and I think they ended up trading him to the Jets, and I think he had a little bit of a bad taste in his mouth when it comes to the Ravens, how all that ultimately played out for him. But he comes to Pittsburgh now. He joins several former Ravens. Boy, we could go down the list here. Patrick Queen, Jeremiah Moon, obviously, Malik Harrison. Oh, who else? Who else am I leaving out here? A couple more. I know I'm forgetting about here.
Not currently on the roster, but Chris Wormley, Miles
Yeah.
Boykin, former ex-Ravens. So yeah, Pittsburgh has had and currently has a bunch of them.
Yeah, let me see if I got my list here. Oh, Deshaun Elliott. How could we forget about Deshaun Elliott?
Right.
Within that group as well too. So, former Ravens played a lot of games in the NFL. Once again, I think Ross McCorkle, his career snaps 1,948 snaps at free safety, 1,846 in the box, and 697 snaps in the slot. He's obviously not the player he once was for several seasons, a little bit long in the tooth. I think he's, what is he, 30, 31, something along those lines there. But he is your new Pittsburgh Steeler. The team also, according to the NFL Transaction Wire earlier in the day, worked out yet another Raven and another safety, Marcus Williams, product out of Utah. So they brought in two former Raven safeties for workouts. I guess earlier in the day they signed Chuck Clark. Anything jump off off the top of your head when you hear about Chuck Clark?
That's a really good point about him wearing the green dot. I had completely forgotten about that, but speaks to his football intelligence and IQ because, as you said, not many safeties get that duty. I think about his versatility. Those Raven safeties of that era a couple years ago, guys that would wear every single hat, Anthony Levine's of the world, Clark, Tony Jefferson, those types of guys that maybe weren't the most athletic, but just could have a pretty varied skill set. And just the numbers that you rattled off, looking up some of the PFF charting, playing slot, playing in the box, playing free safety. Tomlin talked about maybe a chance to play that post, that free safety position, but I just think about one of those hyper versatile, ultra sub package defenders in Chuck Clark.
Yeah, and then obviously to wear the green dot, you have to be a pretty smart guy overall. And once again, when it was announced that that was going to be the new Steeler, that's the first thing that ran through my head is, man, this is a guy that's got a known resume, if you will, when it comes to be a defensive coordinator. You can never have too many of those guys in on the defensive side of football, and we'll now have to wait and see how this plays out with the rest of the defense, obviously, and the safety position in particular. But nice, and going to be a cheap contract, obviously, with him. So that's your new addition there. We kind of wondered if this team would add another safety at some point, and he's the guy.
By the way, it was an ankle injury that put him on IR with the Jets last season. He had that ACL injury in 2023, missed the entire season. He will wear number 21 for the Steelers, at least for training camp, and he was out there practicing in full today, including some team reps before the Storms cut things short.
All right. Let's talk about the guys that did not work or were working on a limited basis today.
Can basically copy and paste yesterday's report to today's. To my knowledge, no new injuries, and Tomlin indicated there wasn't any, quote, negativity, which is his word for injury, after today's practice. Jonnu Smith had a helmet in hand on the jugs machine, worked in stretch line, but did not work in individual, and of course did not work in the team sessions. Isaac Seumalo continues to do some light jogging on the side. He remains on NFI. Ryan McCollum was limited. He did work in individual sessions, but not in team. And so I'm thinking left leg with him. He's got a sleeve on, but whatever it is, I think is relatively minor. We'll see if he comes back here pretty soon. Cordell Patterson, not in uniform. He did not practice in any capacity today.
All right. I'm looking real quick on Chuck Clark. It looks like it was 2023 with a torn ACL and torn pec late last season. So
okay, but maybe he went on IR twice. I don't know. I just saw
did.
some list of an ankle injury in October that got him on IR. So maybe it was both.
Maybe it was both there. Okay, let's see. This list of players that aren't participating probably going to grow and then shrink. Hopefully, some the closer we get to the end of the summer here. But as you pretty much pointed out, there kind of status quo from the first day of practice on Thursday. So hopefully, John Smith can get out there pretty soon as well too. New addition and all. So with that, I guess we'll start on the offensive side of the football. You have the pairings up on the in your draft or in your practice diary for today. Doesn't look like a lot changed there, right?
For what position? I'm sorry.
For
What are
the
you talking about?
offensive line, for the
Yeah.
rotations.
Yeah, offensive line status quo there as well. First team, Broderick Jones, Spencer Anderson, Zach Frazier, Mason McCormick, Troy Fahatanu. Second team, McCullum work, second team center in some of the skeleton on-air stuff. But for the team periods, Calvin Anderson, Doug Nestor, Max Sharping, Stephen Jones, Dylan Cook. Third team, Gareth Warren, Doug Nestor, Nick Broker, Aiden Williams, and Stephen Jones. So Jones playing right guard, right tackle, and Nestor getting multiple reps at guard spots.
All right. And Nestor obviously is a guy that spent, all of last season on the practice squad. So they know quite a bit about him going into this training camp as well there. All right. Let's talk about the offensive line in particular there. No pads on yet. I know it's a hard position group to kind of filter through, especially early on in training camp and really throughout training camp as a whole. Usually we get a better look at those guys in the all 22 from preseason games. But I did see a snap or two that was unappealing when it came to Broderick Jones. I think one time Alex Highsmith kind of dipped or made a move back inside of him, and Broderick Jones was just a turnstile on that one. But once again, you watch one clip, that's not a good representation for all of practice. But kind of give us a run through on maybe some things that jumped out on the offensive line today.
Right. I want to be careful. 1 or 2 reps can color or cloud an evaluation, but it has felt like a tougher 2 days for Broderick Jones. There was 1 rep yesterday. I didn't really point it out because I only kind of caught out of the corner of my eye, and it looked so bad. I thought at first, is this a screen? And I don't know exactly what happened there. Maybe there was some other protection that wasn't there that Jones thought there would be. But watching today, that moment against Highsmith you mentioned, I saw Nick Herbig use Highsmith's favorite move, the inside spin, to dust Jones and get pressure on Rodgers on 1 rep in team. So, I really wanted the pads to come on, get in some competition periods, really kind of get into a football environment for those trench guys. But I would say probably overall not an ideal start for Broderick Jones, and that move back to left tackle in a really big third year for him.
All right. What about Fahatanu over there on the right side? Has anything stuck out about him so far?
It's looked good overall. I haven't gotten to really sit there and watch a lot of his reps, one-on-one. There was a good rep against Alex Highsmith today in one of the early team periods, sealing him up the arc. So I don't have a complete evaluation on any of these guys, but so far it looks okay for Fahatanu.
All right. Shall we go to tight ends today and their usage?
Just one last quick note, and again,
All right.
offensive line, we're going to have more starting Tuesday, so that conversation's really going to hopefully get more intense and more in-depth. But just watching Aiden Williams, the rookie out of Minnesota Duluth, on a screen get out there in space and trying to throw some downfield blocks just kind of caught my attention, seeing a big guy running like that for Caleb Johnson to run behind him.
All right. Tight ends, anything stick out there today?
Yeah, I'll just keep kind of beating the drum. I mentioned yesterday, but J.J. Galbraith, the rookie, he's just got a good athletic profile, and that's kind of my baseline for these situations. You're not in pads right now. Let's see, are athletes, athletic, and can these guys move, and are they fluid? And it's got a nice catch radius. I mentioned the catch yesterday. It was a short one in the flat, but over his head today in 7 shots. That was the first time they did that today. I made a nice kind of spinning catch from, I think it was either Mason Rudolph or Will Howard. I'll check my notes on that, but just kind of seeing the athletic profile of a really fluid athlete with good hands and can adjust to the football. And you got to be able to do all those things at the NFL level. And in very, moments in time, very early on, you're seeing that from J.J. Galbraith.
All right. Seeing much, I think yesterday you noted 1 snap with Connor Hayward in the backfield as a fullback. Seeing anything more than that in day 2?
No, today was a little more pass focused. Each day is going to be about kind of one part of your offense. Yesterday was marrying your inside zone and outside zone scheme with your boot action concepts. It was more under center work. It was more the run game type stuff. Today was a little more shotgun, throw the ball, situational. So didn't see any fullback for anyone today.
All right. And once again, when it comes to that group, hopefully we start talking about Jonnu Smith being out there in practice here pretty soon, sooner rather than later. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens before the pads go on next week or not there. All right. Wide receivers. What's going on with Roman Wilson?
Not a whole lot. I mean, it seems fine overall. Just hasn't gotten a lot of targets and a lot of chances. So hopefully he can make a play because some of the other receivers were making plays today. DK Metcalf, his first touchdown in 7 shots from Aaron Rodgers. So nice to check that box and have that, finality to it. Calvin Austin with the longest reception that Rodgers has thrown so far in camp down the right side for a 20, 25 plus yard gain. So, Wilson just not in my notes a lot. He's down there early working. First guy down the stairs today, got on the jugs machine. So that is all good. He's getting a lot of reps, but not really getting a whole lot of productivity. But we're 2 days in. It was a shortened practice today. So just taking it for what it is.
All right. A lot of people heading into camp had a couple of favorites here down the depth chart in Montana, Lamonius Craig, and Rock Taylor. Anything at all stuck out about either one of those two players through 2 practices?
Not a whole lot. They're down there early working too. Lamonius Craig on the jugs machine early. You had Rock Taylor cashing passes from Mazzani and one of those kind of dummies that have the extension to kind of mimic the cornerback. But they're getting some reps. Lamonius Craig maybe playing some more X receiver backside. I haven't really seen a whole lot of Rock Taylor in team. I may have missed that. I tried to look for the receivers more today. Have some notes on there on Skoranek getting reps and Robert Woods getting some reps and Scotty Miller catching a touchdown pass in 7 shots. But evaluation will probably have to wait still on those guys. And, if you're 4th, 5th string, back of the depth chart receiver, how many reps are you getting? And then how many targets are you getting? And, just not a whole lot there right now for those guys. Those are the guys that are really truly buried on the depth chart. Talk about a 3rd-team offensive lineman. He's buried, but he's getting reps because you're getting that 3rd team in for their 4 reps in team. If you're a receiver and if you're the 9th guy on the depth chart, you're getting maybe 3 snaps in a team period, if that, and how many of those are run plays, and how many of those are screens to somebody else, and how many of those will you get open and will the quarterback see? So it just takes a lot for all that to come together, and that's why it's so important for those young guys like Rock Taylor. Keyshawn Williams had a drop today, and you just can't have those things because your moments are so few and far between. You got to make the most of them. That's why a guy like Galbraith catches my attention, and that's why these receivers will have to capitalize when the number is eventually called.
All right. Running back. Tell us more about Caleb Johnson.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot to stand out from an evaluation standpoint, just noting that burst in yesterday's show, but just a lot of reps for Caleb Johnson. And they don't have a tremendous number of running backs on the roster right now. You have Jalen Warren. You have obviously Caleb Johnson, but whenever you have a Cordell Patterson, he's not practicing. You're 1 short there. And so Johnson certainly is getting a ton of reps, which speaks to what Mike Tomlin discussed yesterday, his conditioning, his readiness, and that's a really good place to be. Certainly the guy looks rocked up, just muscular, 224, 230 pounds, whatever he's weighing at these days. So just like him, getting the opportunities to reps, it's clearly Warren and Johnson, and then kind of the rest. And Kenneth Gainwell continues to kind of be everything and play a lot of receiver and run some routes today too.
All right. The quarterback position, better day for Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I would say so. No interceptions. He had the touchdown pass to DK Metcalf and then had that tiebreaker on a touchdown. It was a nice scheme to get Freiermuth wide open, so it wasn't a difficult throw, but just to throw a couple touchdowns. That's always fun to write about. So, yeah, quarterbacks overall I thought were solid today. No real complaints across the board.
All right. And was Will Howard and Skylar Thompson still kind of that quasi back and forth number 3?
Yeah, I need to double check my notes. You could probably say Howard was in front of him today, but they're probably rotating this. Yesterday, going back through my notes, they were true number 3. They would rotate. Just because somebody gets the first reps in one team period doesn't mean that he's now beat him on the depth chart and is now ascended. They're going to rotate this thing back and forth probably for the next, maybe throughout the entirety of camp. We'll have to see. So I would just call those number 3s right now. And that just means that a rookie like Howard has to earn it. And I know some people will say, why is Thompson getting playing time? Well, he's a veteran and Howard's a rookie. And you want to make these guys have to, pull their weight and prove they should be that true and blue number 3 clearly ahead. And Howard will have to do that over time. And if he's as good a player as I think he is and you think he is, and then the fan base thinks he is, then he will do that. And he will, then totally pass by Skylar Thompson. But for now, like any rookie, you have to earn your stripes.
All right. Walk us before we switch over to the defensive side of football. 7 shots.
Yeah, the first snap was ominous on a day that ended in storm clouds. It was a low snap from Zach Frazier that basically went through the wickets, Aaron Rodgers, and I guess they ended up not counting that play because they brought it back for an eighth play to break the tie that was 3-3 for the offense and defense. That's when Rodgers hit Pat Frymuth for the touchdown to give the offense the win. So putting the Frazier snap aside, the first actual play was a little speed out from Metcalf left side. Rodgers hitting him. How about this for a sentence? Aaron Rodgers to DK Metcalf with Darius Slay on the coverage. Who would have guessed that 7 months ago? That would be the first touchdown of training camp.
All right.
After that, it was a nice breakup by Porter on a back shoulder fade attempt from Rodgers to Metcalf. The next one was Rudolph going through progressions. He wanted Keyshawn Williams, a nice read and close and tip away by Juan Thornhill for the incompletion. Next play, Rudolph hitting Scotty Miller on a slant right side. The next play after that was Howard wanting Brandon Johnson, but Corey Trice Jr. had really good coverage. That was followed by the Galbraith nice kind of spinning snare for a touchdown right side. That made it 3-3, brought the ones back out, and then a good scheme they got Frymouth open, had Rodgers hitting him for the touchdown. So the offense winning the day 4-2-3.
All right. Defensive side of football. Anything sticking about any rotations or whatnot, or performances in practice when it comes to the defensive line?
Yeah, I still was trying to get an eye towards that today. The lack of reps and practice being cut short hurt things. Excuse me, a little bit. Dean Lowry's getting some decent reps. He's still getting kind of some second team work as a D tackle and defensive end. So, should we be talking about Dean Lowry a bit more as trying to stay relevant in that defensive line conversation? Maybe so. I know he's a vet and those young guys behind him and new people behind him. So maybe that's part of it as well. But should note that Daniel Quale has only worked at nose tackle from what I've seen so far. And I've primarily really seen Y.A. Black at defensive end. I know in that corresponding move, they released Dominique Davis, Pittsburgh did, was running third team nose tackle. So we'll see if that opens up any more opportunities for Y.A. Black. But right now, the nose tackle depth chart is Keanu Benton, your starter, of course, and then Daniel Quale, your number 2.
We didn't, I don't think, mention the name of Logan Lee yesterday. Where is he lining up at?
He was working third team right defensive end yesterday. I had him in some nickel pairings today. Again, they're going to mix and match these guys pretty good. So I had one nickel pairing, Jacob Slade and Logan Lee today. Lee had a nice tackle. It was the second to last play of practice on a Evan Hall carry. So it's primarily been right side and then working in nickel and base for Logan Lee.
All right, so I guess the story so far, what kind of day did Derek Harmon have?
Nondescript, which isn't always a bad thing. Just didn't catch my attention. Yesterday a couple plays stuck out to me. I don't doesn't mean I had a bad practice today, but probably just a fine day for Derek Harmon.
All right, I guess the main takeaway would be after a couple days is Quale mostly at nose tackle and Dean Lowry still up there in the rotations.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, Harmon had a really nice practice yesterday, so that was a good start. I think the rookie class overall has been pretty impressive for their first 2 days into these padless training camp practices. Long ways to go, obviously, but yeah, that's probably a fair summary.
All right, let's talk about the outside linebackers next. And you had an interesting note about DeMarvin Leal, I believe, in your diary.
Yeah, there's a couple interesting things. Maybe for the Monday show, especially too, a good conversation about Leal. My hot take, and just watching him today, and really just throughout his Steelers career, he's not obviously new to Pittsburgh. Pound for pound, he might be the most athletic Steeler on the roster. The way that he moves and how athletic he is, his speed, his chase in space. He's dropping into coverage a lot. He's running guys down in a curl flat, and then just even things like. And this is probably kind of more of a joke, or I shouldn't say a joke, but he was in the kick return line and fielded at least one kick today. Maybe that's his nut man type thing, where if a ball's ever short to you. But after that, he's excited to field a punt, doesn't get to have the ball in his hands too often, and runs over and leaps up in the air. I mean, the guy's got a crazy vertical. So doesn't mean you're a good football player, but just the athletic profile for DeMarvin Leal is, I think, what is keeping Pittsburgh interested in him, and probably why he's playing outside linebacker right now, because they probably feel like his athleticism overall is better served in space and playing on the edges as opposed to trying to play interior stuff as a defensive end, defensive tackle. So just interesting guy that Pittsburgh has never really found a home for him, and I still think going to another system, another scheme is probably best for Liao to have any chance to revive his career. And if you want to talk about any potential trade candidate besides Corliss Waitman, I think about DeMarvin Liao. Could you flip him somewhere for a 7th-round pick, conditional type thing at cut down time? That, I think, is on the table.
All right. So maybe he's more of a 4-3 end for a team?
I think that's his best fit. A 4-3 defensive end is probably the best thing for him in his career.
All right, Jack Sawyer, primarily primarily played left outside linebacker in college at Ohio State. That remains where he's primarily playing with the Steelers in practice, right?
Correct. He had a couple nice rushes today. Good inside move on one, just kind of getting some pressure, being a presence around the football. So nice job for Sawyer. Like I said, the rookie class has impressed me so far, and we're seeing some of that flip flop from DJ Watt. Mentioned yesterday him playing off ball in that one rep, and then today first 2 reps of 7 shots playing on the right side, which is the opposite side he's normally on. So it was Highsmith at left outside linebacker and Watt at right outside linebacker. They ended up switching back later in practice, and they're only getting kind of half days because they don't need the reps that some of the young guys do, but continuing to see TJ Watt move around.
All right. What did Mike Tomlin have to say about that after practice? Let me see if I can.
He downplayed it, just said it's camp and they're going to do some different stuff, but it's certainly notable because they didn't do that in other camps.
I got you. All right. Inside linebacker. Anybody else outside linebacker to talk about right now? Early?
No, that covers it well. Julius Wolshoff still has a sleeve on his knee. I know he had that knee injury last year. I don't know if that's just a comfort thing, if there's an injury there. He's practicing in full, though.
All right. How about the inside linebacker position?
Not a ton to note there. Just seeing a lot of reps for Peyton Wilson, and I still wonder, and I'm kind of trending towards the belief that they're going to try to make Peyton Wilson the base 3-4 inside linebacker next to Patrick Queen instead of having that 3-man rotation of having Malik Harrison come in. Could that still happen? Sure, it's early, but they know the talent and upside with Peyton Wilson. We talk about versatility and the hats that he can wear. He can do more than what Malik Harrison can do defensively because Harrison's just kind of a run stopper in that Landon Roberts mold. Wilson can hopefully become someone who can do anything you call for, anything a defensive scheme calls for. So seeing the reps for him, Cole Holcomb moving around well. You know, I joked in my camp report that I should probably stop being in awe of a man practicing because we get it, he's healthy, but it just nice to see him back out there moving around well on the punt team too. So trying to get those special teams reps to really cement that spot on the 53-man roster.
I'm guessing a guy like Carson Bruner's not getting many snaps out there, especially on a day like today that was even shorter.
Yeah, it's hard to calculate exactly, and I wrote about this yesterday and talked about this too. There are so many inside linebackers, and there's not like a veteran that's going to get time off. You're not getting that James Ferrier, Lawrence Timmons type that's been with the team forever, so they're going to get some rest days or some half days. So all these guys are really getting a lot of work, and so it does squeeze out some back end of the depth chart guys like Bruner and Mark Robinson and Devin Harper, but Bruner's still getting reps. He's getting reps on the punt team too, so expect him to be, getting a lot of burn on special teams in the preseason.
All right, what went on in the secondary today? How much did newcomer Chuck Clark work, and how about an update on Dante Kent as you roll through some of this?
Yeah, Clark got at least a couple reps. I know I saw him out there one time opposite Miles Killebrew. Nothing to really note from an evaluation standpoint, but just getting him thrown in, getting him lathered up, and so that's good for him to get started, get a couple of practices in before the pads come on. Really good day for the DBs. Really aggressive on the ball, a lot of breakups, really tight coverage, whether that was Joey Porter Jr. with multiple breakups. Corey Trice Jr. himself had a couple of good plays in coverage. Brandon Echols had maybe the play of the day, the first real deep ball of training camp in the team period. Mason Rudolph firing down the middle for Lance McCutcheon. Echols staying with it, breaking it up. Maybe it was underthrown ever so slightly, but a nice play from Echols. All the same, Dante Kent, the very last play of team before they called it, being able to break on the ball and bat a pass away from J.J. Galbraith. So just seeing DBs being active, playing the ball, making plays. Thornhill in 7 shots, breaking up that pass in the end zone. So DB certainly one of the stories of the day.
All right, Brandon Echols mostly playing on the outside.
Exclusively so far. He's been second team left corner. So the second team corners, because I wanted to look at that a little bit more closely today. Echols left corner, Trice right corner, and Beanie Bishop Jr. getting those now second team slot reps. Jalen Ramsey continuing to do the nickel safety thing, depending on whether you're in, your nickel defense or your base 3-4.
And where's Kent been? Inside?
Yeah, he's been inside. You can probably call it third team slot corner for Dante Kent.
All right, and I guess that would leave Jamison on the outside, and who else on the outside?
Well, honestly, and I was just thinking about this before you said it. I haven't seen Deshaun Jameson get defensive reps. Now, he may have, and I'm sure he has, and I just haven't seen it, but he might be the guy getting squeezed out. I don't know who's, what's even left at that point. Third team outside corner, though, is James Pierre and Cameron McCutcheon. So those are your outside guys with Kent inside. Then you get into the fourth teamers where you're getting in your Kyler McMichael, your Deshaun Jamesons, and it's just not a lot of reps left there for the taking. The third team's going to get maybe 4 in a team period, trying to rotate in. Maybe you're getting 1 or 2. But yeah, barely don't have Jameson in my notes at all. He's got some, I think, kick return type work, or he's in one of the return lines. But I'll need to watch for him tomorrow to kind of see what he's getting. But it's scraps. That's the story of guys like him and Kyler McMichael in his second camp in Pittsburgh.
That's why these preseason games are so important to these guys, right? These back end of the guys.
Sure.
That's when they're going to get, and that's why we talk all the time. I liked it when they had 5, sometimes 5 preseason games, and definitely did not mind 4 at all. And here we are at 3, and it makes you kind of wonder how much. I mean, what does it do? I mean, because you can, according to the CBA, they probably, the players think they already practice too much as it is. And, you get in a training camp session and you want to get your first and second team guys all these snaps. And, as we talk and go through this, there's just not a lot of snaps for your third and fourth team guys, on either side of the ball. And it may, if you take away the preseason game, another preseason game, how are these guys ever going to show anything to make rosters,
No, it's a great point. And that interview I did right before the year began with Braden Fajoko, the former Steelers nose tackle, talking about that, fighting for kind of the little guy, the small fish he referred it to, guys that aren't the stars, that need these reps and opportunities and the difficulty getting it. And you're right that Jameson will probably get some preseason action, but how many snaps will you give a guy in a game when he's not even practicing? He's not practicing for. You're going to put him out there in a game with very few reps. I mean, again, he'll get some reps, I'm sure, in the fourth quarter or for the final drive or two. Injuries can change things, and those will pile up when the pads come on. That's going to unlock opportunities. But yeah, just tough sledding for those guys.
Yeah. All right. Anything new on Sebastian Castro?
No real notes there. He's getting some special teams work, probably third team up back or so. We'll kind of see if he gets some additional reps there and what those look like in preseason games. But still safety, a little bit of slot work, kind of depending on whether you roll down, depending on the call. But yeah, safety, slot, up back, that's kind of his profile.
All right. We posted about an interview that he had the last couple of days about he knows how important special teams. He's going to be fun to watch on special teams too. So once we get into preseason and all. All right, on the specialists, there's only one guy I want to know about on the specialist. Did he pick up a football today? What went on with Chris Boswell today?
Not much.
I want this to come true so bad I can taste it, just because I've been the only one talking about it. I'm going to be very upset if they don't give Chris Boswell more money.
And if you're his agent, how do you not sit there and bang on Omar Khan's door and say, pay this guy? Because he should get paid. I mean, why would you not try to go down that road? I think it's got to happen, right, Dave, before the season begins.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, if I'm betting that it's going to happen. I'm probably betting a pretty good chunk on that happening. But it hasn't happened yet. Do they want him to get through preseason and all, and just make sure he stays healthy and all before they go do something like that? I mean, that's certainly plausible. But if I'm him too, I'm not doing a damn thing in practice, man, because he is older. You could hurt your groin, hurt your back, whatever, and then you're definitely not going to get that monone.
Yeah. Well, so far so good, because he's not done anything really these first 2 days. Now, the special teams periods have been just punting. They've done no kicking formally as a unit. Ben Sauls has done some kicking on the side yesterday. Boswell was in Jersey, though, is number 9, but the most I saw from him was him and Cameron Johnson talking to Arthur Smith before practice. So nothing happened today for Chris Boswell, which is probably just fine with Chris Boswell.
All right. Anything stick out in the 11-11 sessions?
Nothing outside of what I talked about. The breakup by Eccles downfield, the Metcalf touchdown. just watching Metcalf and some of the on-air stuff, which, take it for a grain of salt, but you just kind of get to compare guys that way. This receiver to the next receiver as they go through the lines and just that burst, and you can kind of feel it. Just a big, freaky player DK Metcalf is. Not that I'm breaking news on that. Everyone knows that, but it's always different to see it in person. You kind of can feel it. You can see it up when you watch the tape, when you watch on TV. You can feel it whenever you're in person. You can certainly feel that explosiveness with DK Metcalf.
All right, Aaron Rodgers' longest reception of the day. Tell me about that.
The longest completion?
Longest completion, yeah.
Yeah, that throw right side to Calvin Austin. Not sure what route Austin ran. I think he was a line right side. I don't know if he ran probably wasn't an over route, maybe just kind of a corner route. I didn't get a great look. It's probably online somewhere, I'm sure. But 25 yards downfield, nice throw, nice catch, and good play overall.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add about either side of the football here?
Let me just check my notes. I think overall, not that it's been perfect, there's been some blips, but a pretty clean practice in terms of not a lot of fumbles, not a lot of botch exchanges. The snaps have been a little bit shaky, not a lot of false starts or bad penalties. This thing will, as Tomlin likes to say, ebb and flow. There'll be good days and bad days. But I think for all the new there is offensively and defensively in this environment, I think it's been pretty clean overall. So I like to start, not a lot of wasted reps, which, you just want to have good quality, clean reps that can give the opportunity for all these guys, big and small, to be evaluated. The worst thing is, whenever you have a false start or a bad handoff or just, something like that totally ruins the play because you don't get to make it up. They don't, there's no do-over on these reps. You get 12, and if there's a busted one, well, you got 11 left. And that's how this camp works. They're on a schedule. There's rules on how long they can practice for, all that kind of stuff. So you got to make every single rep count. And when I go back to that fourth string or fifth string or ninth string receiver or cornerback trying to get, reps and get some quality tape out there, it's going to kill those guys if they lose it because of a bad handoff or a false start or something like that. So it's really important to be clean throughout camp. I think so far it has been in Pittsburgh.
All right, what about under center stuff?
In terms of how much they're doing it?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's a little situational, contextual. Yesterday was more of a focus on that because it was working on some of their base, mirroring inside zone, outside zone, and some of their boot stuff. So I had Rodgers yesterday. 7 of his 12 reps were under center. Today, I don't know if he took a single snap under center. I can check my notes on that. But today was a little more 11 personnel, focus on passing the ball, some downfield throws. Yesterday was more zone schemes and bootlegs and throws in the flat. So, to kind of go back to that J.J. Watt conversation about camp stats, we will agree to disagree on the value of it to some extent, but I think his point was there's training camp has context. You don't just do things. You're not just lining up and just running plays at random just for no purpose. There's a reason and a plan each day about what you want to get done. And in Pittsburgh especially, I can't speak to other camps, but in Pittsburgh, so much of it is situational. And you'll see that throughout training camp of, okay, we're going to work on a third down period where it's third and long. We're going to work on 2-minute or work on goal line. That's why they work on 7 shots, low red zone type stuff. So the context for all that should be recognized for what they're trying to get done in a certain practice or a certain period of practice.
How does Aaron look physically and athletically, and how is he moving?
I mean, he's not the memes of him in a wheelchair that's online right now. He's moving around, fine. Ask me in November. That's probably a better question about how he's feeling and moving around. One observation, and I'm not trying to make an opinion or a judgment of it, I should say, but Rodgers gets a lot fewer cheers from the crowd than I thought he would for being this Hall of Famer, celebrity status quarterback. Ben, of course, everyone went crazy for Ben. Even Russell Wilson last year, people went crazy for him. It's kind of a polite applause for Rodgers. You kind of wouldn't think it's Aaron Rodgers walking down the steps whenever he comes out to practice. And he's not being mean. Like, he'll high-five fans as they kind of put their hands out. But it's kind of interesting. I thought it to be more of a show whenever Aaron Rodgers came down the stairs.
Yeah, and obviously, he's a polarizing type guy, and he does seem like he's kind of he's signed so many, he's done this so long now. He comes to work and he leaves work, right?
Yeah, I haven't seen him sign. I didn't catch him. Obviously today after practice, I don't think anybody signed because they all had to go up the stairs, and then they canceled it about a half hour later. I don't know if he signed yesterday. I kind of lost sight of him after a couple minutes following the final horn. But even, Ben maybe didn't sign all the time, but they still cheered for him. I know he's new, and it doesn't matter. And if he succeeds, then people will love him. If he doesn't, then people will hate him. But just kind of interesting comment. And I know that he's now kind of made some overtures about, well, maybe 2025 isn't my last season, and Omar Khan saying, yeah, we'd love to bring back Aaron Rodgers. So who knows how that goes, but that door's already kind of being open after Rodgers seemingly closed it earlier this year.
Yeah, interesting to see how this there will be no next season if he doesn't have a good this season. So there's plenty of time to worry about that. Mike Tomlin after practice, we said at the top of the show we're going to get to that real quick. I just found it quite interesting, just kind of his the method of his madness and all. And he was talking about he really just wanted to get them through the process of having to break up practice and get them back out there again because of sometimes, and how many times have we seen this over the Steelers of all people have games interrupted where they're whether it's weather and they have to go in the locker room and then recoup and come out, right? And I think that was one of the biggest things that Mike Tomlin's biggest disappointment, I would say, from the whole day was he said, really wanted to get the group back out on the field if at all possible, but the Doppler hadn't moved enough. The reason why is oftentimes in football, we're faced with adversity, sudden changes, if you will, particularly as it pertains to weather. They had a big delay last year when we played the Cowboys, for example. So we don't run from days like today. We just work to try to deal with it the best of our ability and get as much done as we can while keeping the group safe, but we didn't deem it safe enough based on the Doppler information to get back out today, and so not a lot to talk about, he said. So he sounded like he really wanted to try to get that group back out again just to go the adversity of stopping and starting, but obviously didn't get that to happen.
Yeah, he mentioned the Cowboys game last year, which had that delayed kickoff. Remember the Cardinals game 2 years ago? 2 delays that were like 30 minutes long each. That was a miserable game. They lose and it rains and you're just waiting. God, what a horrible day that ended up being. But get the point there. Honestly, I was surprised they went back as quickly as they did. I mean, there were some dark clouds rolling in and it was some thunder off in the distance, but I didn't see any lightning. And usually they'll kick the fans out before they make the players come off the field, but they went off pretty quickly and it never really stormed that bad, at least in that particular part of Latrobe. It was a little bit of rain. That was about it. So they frankly probably could have and should have gotten practice done the whole way through without ever pausing, but such is life, as Mike Tomlin would say.
All right. All right. What was the best thing that Alex Kozora saw all day today?
It's low-hanging fruit, but I got to just say Aaron Rodgers, a DK Metcalf touchdown. That's a fun sentence to say overall, and nice to check that box as your first touchdown of training camp to get things started in 7 shots. So after yesterday, which was a little messy in the connection of Rodgers and Metcalf, which will happen, but today a touchdown on the first attempt is always fun to write about.
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
I think that's it. There might be some rain in the forecast for this weekend, so we shall see what tomorrow looks like. But so far, so good in terms of me staying dry, which is my main priority and purpose. I didn't get rained on too bad today, so I'll take it.
All right, we'll wrap this up a few minutes after 8 o'clock Eastern. If you have not done so, go by SteelersDepot.com and make sure you find it stickied at the top of the page, Alex Kozora's daily diary from training camp practice. Good read there. Very informative. The best that you should find online when it comes to post-training camp practice recaps. Alex, of course, will be back out there along with our very own Tim Rice, who's taken a lot of great photos. I'll have the Friday groupings of pictures up on the site after I process this special edition of the podcast. So look for those tonight as well. And Alex and I will be back on Saturday night recapping what all he observed at Saint Vincent College for the 3rd practice of 2025. So with that, as usual, you can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. Follow Alex at Alex_Kozora. Follow the show at Terrible Podcast. Email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. If you like what we do and want to donate, SteelersDepot.com, hit the donate button. Also, if you like an ad-free version, SteelersDepot.com, and hit that ad-free button. Follow the directions that way. So until Saturday night, as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast, another special edition of the Terrible Podcast, Pittsburgh Steelers Training Camp 2025 with Dave and Alex.